You know, we're going to have a topic today that could blow your mind. And then when this happened to me, when one of my clients walked in and shared this with me, it blew mine. And when we talk about intimacy and sexuality, one of the worst places to have an incident happen between a couple is in bed. It's the worst, as you can imagine, because I mean, everyone's naked, everyone's vulnerable, and here's something that happened that we're going to talk about to make sure it doesn't even come close to happening to you, because this ended up shattering a relationship, quite frankly, and that is texting during sex. Now, you've all heard about sexting, you know, where it's been very popular with teenagers, where they'll take pictures of themselves nude and forward it on to their friends with their cell phone photos, and all of a sudden, before you know it, everyone's all over school naked. And so there's a big problem with schools around the country. But this is texting during sex. And what happened was my client came and sat down, and he was just unbelievably frustrated. And we have been working together on this relationship and honesty and sharing and being open and transparent and vulnerable. And he sat down, he goes, you know, I don't think I can do this anymore, David. I think I've reached my limit in this relationship. And I asked him what happened, and he told me, and I have to tell you, I was in shock. He was performing oral sex, I can't think of saying it any other way, on his partner. And he hears this noise, and he knows it can't be that she would be texting, so he just continues pleasuring her, and then he hears it again, and he looks up, and sure enough, she's sending a text to someone on her phone. And he said he got up, and he was so shocked, he just brutally, right away, said, you know, stop that, that's crazy, stop it. And so she did, and so he continued pleasuring her, and a few seconds later, he hears it again. And so he gets up, and he didn't even know what to say other than, this is insanity, and he leaves the room. Well, long story short, you know, he ends up coming and sitting down just totally frustrated, saying, what am I supposed to do in this circumstance? You know, like, do you forgive someone, or do you just, like, walk away from the relationship, or what do you do? Well, we ended up putting it on our blog, and before you know it, we had comments coming from all over the United States. We had a sex therapist who's been a sex therapist for years. Now, I've done this work for 20 plus years. I've never heard of this before. We had a sex therapist come in, or text us in, saying that they had never heard of it. A psychotherapist that said, you know what? I think there's some huge issues here. It's what's called dissociation in the world of therapy, and what that means is during stressful times or even exciting times, is that one of the people in a relationship will dissociate, meaning that they'll blank out, you know, they'll space out, they'll maybe be making love, and then as I talked to my client more, he said some of these things is happening, is that they'd be making love and she'd be off staring to the side. And he would get her attention, and then she would come back, but she was daydreaming type of a thing, spacing out, you know, and all of a sudden changing conversations, forgetting what the conversation was about while they were in bed, and just abruptly changing conversation. It's called dissociation. Well, more texts came in, and more emails came in regarding my blog, and believe it or not, some women had actually emailed us, and we have this on the blog at talkdavid.com, saying they had done the same thing. Like that they had actually, during sex, when they're making love, is that they had actually responded to texts. And they even said that, you know, one of them said, my boyfriend got so upset with me, he stood up out of bed, he called me a few names, and he left, and he texted me an hour later saying, it's over. You know, she said it was appropriate. You know, his behavior was actually appropriate. She felt bad. She doesn't know why she did it. And as we've seen, all these different emails come in. I mean, there's multiple reasons why someone might do it. None of them are acceptable. But one could be someone was bored, you know, sexually. They just weren't into their partner anymore and they were bored. Another one was that they had a resentment against their partner. And so instead of saying, you know, I'm really frustrated with you, while their partner was pleasuring them orally, they decided, well, you know what, the heck with it, I'm just going to go ahead and text someone. There's other reasons of why someone might do it. We talked about dissociation, which is actually an emotional disorder that can be treated, if someone wants to be treated, where that they don't even realize they're doing it. In other words, you know, yes, someone is pleasuring me orally, but, you know, I'm just going to space out and go and do this. And it's a way to separate themselves from deep intimacy. In other words, the dissociation is something, you know, sometimes people will only fantasize with being with someone else in bed. That's dissociation. So they're afraid of or don't want that incredibly deep, intimate connection, so they'll dissociate. But, you know, texting during sex is really amazing. A couple women wrote in saying, you know, that they felt, course, we don't know if this is true or not, but they felt that this woman probably was doing other things as well, shutting down outside of the bedroom as well as inside of the bedroom, not communicating, not doing things that she said that she would do, and it's all about that dissociation. It's a separation, the fear of intimacy, the fear of talking about what's really going down. But anyway, long story short, as we went ahead and continued to work with my client, and his pain was evident. I mean, his anger was evident. His frustration was evident that someone could so disrespect him during that sexual time, that time when we're all so vulnerable. That he ended up over a short period of time deciding that that was the final straw. They had some things that they were challenged by in the relationship as well, but that was it. Then he had to get up and actually end the relationship. But I want you to think, I remember a survey a number of years ago saying the number one thing that interrupted sex was the cell phone. The number one thing, and people picking up the phone, Now, I can understand that, if you're waiting for a job, you don't have a job, or if you're waiting for your child and they're supposed to call and you pick up the phone, but texting is something else. Come on, let's treat intimacy the way it's supposed to be treated, with respect and with love. And if you ever hear of anyone doing this, talk to them about it openly and honestly. If they say that I got away with it even or something, talk to them. Texting during sex is probably one of the most disrespectful things that we can do. We're not here to do that, but we're here to spread the message right now. Take this message to your friends. Make sure that this doesn't happen to you. If I can help you in any way with your relationship to bring you closer, not apart, go to talkdavid.com. I'm David Essel. Have a fantastic day.